Okay.
Rapid fire Q&A, man.
Are you ready, Johnny?
Podcast.
Boom. Okay. We're here with Johnny Maverick Ference.
Maverick.
And Goose.
And Goose.
Myself. I just compiled questions from growers, so on and so forth. Okay. We already answered the banning fertilizer. Let's see. The first input that's highly used in wheat that does not make as much of a difference as people think it does. Something to cut back in a low. I mean, you got to really you need to cut costs to stay profitable. Wheat drops in price, 50, 60 bushel wheat. What's the first thing Johnny's going to change up in standard? Air drill, some fertilizer through the drill, and then
that's the only option
and then they just throw the rest on in the spring. The rest maybe a little more, some more nitrogen, and who knows, some P and K, heavy P and K use, some zinc, micros, etc.
Okay. Well, if your majority of your P is used just in the fall, and that's the only time you're going to do it, thinking of that, your plant available phosphorus is going to come from those pounds you put on in May. That's too long of a time. It's probably going to find something to bind to, within that time period. So what I would look at is when you're doing your air drill and you're putting some fertility that way phosphorus is key, helping getting roots down, but I wouldn't put your full load of phosphorus.
Put a little bit.
Put a little bit of phosphorus. A little bit of nitrogen will help too, get that stimulation. If you're putting all your K on in the fall, you're going to get a little bit of an effect in the fall, but more than likely it's going to get tied up or you're not going to be able to change much later on. So if you're actually trying to get a response from K, I would say you need to be doing that at green up or even a little bit later than that. So I'd say that would be the biggest thing. Maybe it's not changing the fertility dollars or cutting fertility dollars, is putting the fertility dollars where you get the bigger ROI. Or if you are going to cut, I would look at your phosphorus numbers. I mean, if your phos numbers, it's above that 35 P1, as long as the soil temp gets above 50 when you're planting, you're probably going to get that kick of phosphorus. When it comes to potassium, if those numbers are above 125 to 150, maybe it's something you just do a stimulation play instead of just put removal rates. Don't do growth
simulation
rates.
Play. Next segue in.
Yes.
So many people think, and when you say simulation, you're talking a foliar?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So many people think that we are replacing soil-applied fertility with a foliar-applied fertility, which can be done a little tiny bit, right?
To a point, yes. A little bit.
But what actually is being the goal in a proper foliar feed is plant signal response.
Yes.
Like, hey, we got this, we need more of it, go get it, right?
100%.
Okay.
So like if you're going in there doing a foliar feed, definitely like a lot of these products in the foliar market, you look at the actual pounds of that product, and it shouldn't make a difference. If you're thinking, I'm going to go put so much zinc on. Mm-hmm. What you're really doing is if you're doing zinc or manganese as a foliar feed, you're sending that or getting that plant to have a signal response saying, that tasted good, that was good. I'm going to send out the message into my root exudates to help me find that more. Okay. So pretty much you're making that plant communicate better about what nutrients it wants to receive.
It's
in
like
that situation.
A buffet. You get a little bit of everything, and then you go back for what you really like.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same sense what you're doing with the foliar feeds. You're trying to stimulate that crop saying, get more of this.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha.
Yep.
If a guy's shooting for 50, 60 bushel wheat, I say shooting for. That's what the average is.
Okay.
How much P and K in the fall would be a little bit of shot and some nitrogen? 10 pounds each?
I would say I'd do it on percentage based.
Okay, explain that.
So let's just say, because everybody's soil type's going to be slightly different.
Sure.
P and K levels are going to be slightly different.
Sure.
You know, so I would say at least I would do 25%.
Okay.
Just to get that stimulation of the roots to get going down. Okay. I also think there's a huge play here in when is it planted? What's the soil temp when it's planted? All that jazz. Because if you're getting, let's just say the later end of wheat planting, you might actually want to bump that up to like 35% because you need those roots to grow now.
Got it.
To get those as far down.
I see. Develop the plant because winter's coming faster.
Yeah. Now, some of your earlier planted stuff, your soil temp's going to be warmer. There's going to be phosphorus. There's going to be potassium. You know, maybe you tune down in that area. But more of a clear cut, I would say at least 25%.
Of your fertility plan?
Yeah.
Got it.
At least 25. And I'm not against using more. It's just you got to know, are you, like with potassium, the longer it sits in the soil, it's hard to really change numbers there. Definitely if you're high in potassium, like the field that we saw.
Yeah.
I mean, you're at 7% potassium. You need to work on how to get that plant to access that. You don't need to apply potassium.
Your kids are going to have potassium.
Yeah. So I say that's the biggest thing. I mean, at least 25%. You do need Phos.
Yeah.
Some form of available phosphorus to help that root stimulate there in the beginning.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha. Let's see. Fire rolled across a guy's farm ground. Would it be a good idea to put a cover crop in?
So a fire rolled through. So what I think about is, okay, so residue burnt up. It gets you into the name of why potash got its name. It's pot ash. Okay. So like when they used to burn, wood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't say that as like, whoa, Johnny. It's more like we don't actually think about the literal meaning of things that were given. Things were given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
daylight. Potash. Oh.
Well, when you said daylight, I thought donuts, but whatever. I mean, so be it.
Same. Same. I did think of that.
But so when you have a fire roll through like that, I think of the heavy concentration of potassium you now have.
Okay.
Carbon burned off with the residue. So now you have a huge accumulation of potassium. Now, getting some living roots to help get carbon back in there to buff that, definitely if you're in a no-till environment, I think that's a great idea, just to get living roots back into the soil.
And protect your ground.
Well, 100% there. Yeah. I mean, in the low CEC soils.
Right. I mean, this is also circumstantial. I mean, are you in Minnesota or are you in Arizona?
Yes.
Are you going to get rain to bring the cover crop up?
Well, I would argue even if it just germinates and you see it spiking out of the ground, you're getting something.
Yeah.
You know, is it as much as you would possibly want? Probably not. But on the same token, anytime you see green on top, there's carbon getting injected below.
Got it. Okay. Ask those two. Okay. When applying manure for many years, how high is too high of phosphorus levels? How much zinc should I be applying and what type of zinc? Water-soluble zinc sulfate with the planter and side dress are my easiest ways to apply. So, back up just a bit. Phosphorus and zinc go hand in hand, correct?
Yes. 10 to 1.
10 to 1. 10 phosphorus to 1 zinc.
Correct.
Got it. Where am I at on that test?
On this test, you are not a 10 to 1.
I am dead.
Well,
that's right. Goodbye.
So, like on this test, you have 40 pounds available, but it says here, so you're roughly, let's just call it 20. Mm-hmm. Okay, for simple terms, you're 20. So you should have around 2 ppm, parts per million. Zinc, you're at a 0.27.
I'm low on everything.
Well,
that field we run, the 107, is low on zinc.
Yeah.
I'm low on zinc all over the place here.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to the thing, too. Is it there? Like when you pull a tissue test, are you low on zinc? I mean, that's something just to ask yourself while we're going through here. But
sure.
It's telling me that if you banned your phosphorus in this situation, if you ban phosphorus, that means your concentration is going to be more out of whack. So the importance of having zinc in that band is even more important. Whenever I ban phosphorus, I need some zinc. Sure. Because it goes back to that ratio, because it's so concentrated in that band.
Sure.
So I am a huge proponent of when you put phosphorus in a band, you throw a little zinc in it.
Got it.
Unless your zinc numbers are way out of whack the other way.
Sure. So if you're applying Phos, you need zinc in a 10-to-1 ratio. If you're putting 10 pounds of phosphorus down, you need 1 pound of zinc?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, you can get into economic barriers here of applying the zinc. So one thing I do is I say at least do whatever the product is, at least do a pint then. You know, if it's an economic thing or if it's a quart. Just to get it closer.
Sure. Okay, I'm looking at my tissue test here. Zinc, I'm setting it sufficient actually on corn.
How? Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to file. Kirk, prepare thyself, please. Oh, shoot. Hang on. I'm just going to do one. Okay. Print. I'll pull up a tissue test.
Okay.
Because I think that's a very valid thing that we need to talk about a bit here. Is that, would you band it in the planter? Would you put a lot of phos and a lot of zinc with the seed in furrow? Or is
fertilizer source that you're using and salt index starts playing hugely into that.
Sure.
With that being said, utilizing banding, utilizing in furrow, there is a quote unquote an X factor. And I don't know if X factor is the term or you're just being more efficient because it's concentrated closer to the plant so it has a search for it as well.
Sure.
With that being said, I mean, I can sit here and play devil's advocate, and there's some people that say, you know, do not put phosphorus in furrow because you start losing relationship to mycorrhizal fungi. I mean, that research is out there too. Mm-hmm. I get to a part though that if your yield limiting factor is phosphorus, you gotta correct it. And with that being said, now can there be more in play that you can get biologicals going? Yes. But usually what I've seen is to get the soil releasing the way you need to is not an overnight deal.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Move towards the right direction.
It wasn't destroyed in a year. It can't be fixed in a year.
Yeah, like don't think, I mean, our soils need a transition too, just like everything else does. So that's when if you wanted to be more efficient, economically, tune down a little bit, in furrow and in banding, you are going to get efficiency factors there.
Sure.
To help out with the crop. So, yeah, your zinc's sitting. Yeah, your zinc's sitting fine. I don't know if they're the same fields, but long story short, if I got this, it tells me that there's zinc there. Mm-hmm. It's just not getting released at the time of the extraction.
Virtually similar dirt, very similar dirt.
Okay.
Across the creek from each other.
Okay.
So, phosphorus is pretty good. Potassium. Dude, I'm always low in potassium here. Always. I mean, I know it has a lot to do with biology, keeping biology going, but...
Well, excuse me. One thing I think about here is, so you say your potassium's low.
I'm chronically low across most all of my ground.
So it's more of a parent material deal.
Okay.
You know, like...
Sure.
So I get to a point here of like, okay, you're low in potassium, so how can we be more efficient with that potassium? Okay. Banding would be huge.
Sure.
You know, you're going to get a huge bump there. Mm-hmm. In season, doing 10 gallons of, you know, melted potash or melted...
KTS. Something, yeah.
Now,
melted potash.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I had not heard of that.
Yep.
Oh, man. Johnny, we have so much to do.
Just smiles.
Y'all just wait. You ain't ready for what's coming for you.
So, that could be in play here.
Okay.
You know, because there's a chance here that you keep applying potash every year and nothing really changes. Definitely if you're already close to that neutral pH mm-hmm. and you keep applying potassium, if there's no room for it on the colloid, it's going to go.
Gotcha.
Now it's going to take time.
Do we need more carbon?
Possibly.
Maybe.
I mean, that'd be a way to help with that adjustment
Okay.
of it to get it more tied up. But
Would you put carbon with the application of potassium?
if it was liquid in a band, 100%.
Okay. Gotcha. Would you go humic or fulvic?
What time of year?
Summer. Let's just say spring, summer.
Spring.
No. Fall. Fall banding.
Fall banding.
Fall,
humic,
winter.
Humic all day long.
Okay.
If you're doing in season, I want to get this nutrient in this crop as fast as possible.
Okay.
Fulvic all day long.
Got it. Because we don't want to tie it.
No, we
wanna
want to get it in. I mean, one thing I see with fulvic is it takes a minimum maintenance road
Yeah.
and it turns it into an 8-lane highway.
Whoa.
Is what I see it as.
I love that.
So whenever you're trying to get something into a plant, period,
Yeah.
fulvic.
Got it. Okay. Did that answer that? Oh.
Let's go back. Yeah, rewind.
How much phosphorus is too much phosphorus?
Yes. So I get to the phosphorus game. So university, I think came out. They bumped it up to 35 parts per million. My personal experience is I really like how soils start cycling, and they feel like they smell healthier. Stuff cycling well. If we get to that 40 ppm to 50 ppm, that's spray 1. Now, with that being said, those high of numbers is because of manure getting it there. Like trying to do a MAP application, I just don't. You'd break the bank trying to get to those levels.
I've tried.
Yeah, so I get to the part of, let's just say you're at 25 ppm,
Yeah.
or if I see 25 ppm and we're not doing manure, I feel very comfortable doing a in-furrow and having enough Phos.
Okay.
That's it.
Sure.
Now, if we get down to 20, okay, if they're going to be going off with a dry rig anyway, we'll throw some MAP to help compensate.
Okay.
Or if I see 12, if we're doing strip till, we'll put 1034O with humic, with live, zinc in the strip.
Got it.
To help compensate there. But where is too high? I think once you get above 50, it's not like the phosphorus is too high for what could happen. The phosphorus is too high based on the other nutrients that are influenced with phosphorus. Okay. Like the ratio, manure is great, but one of the downfalls is they've been eating hay, they've been eating corn that may not have had the perfect ratio. So how do we expect a cow's manure to have the perfect ratio?
Sure.
It's not going to happen. So when we're utilizing manure there, it's just understanding what the micros are doing as well to compensate for it. So he talked about zinc being a 10-to-1 using zinc sulfate. Love it. Okay. I love zinc sulfate. Anything in a sulfate form when it comes to a micro is usually the fastest releasing.
Okay.
When it comes to a dry.
Sure.
Now, when you're getting to like in-furrow, foliar feeding zinc, I really like to watch chelations here. I really like the studies on amino acid-based chelation and carbon-based chelations, getting it into the plant. I've had really good luck on raising zinc levels with EDTA chelation for in-furrow. But there's even, I mean, you talk to many different people on EDTA, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about that element. I just don't think there's been enough studies of clear-cut, this is what it does.
EDTA is easy, isn't it? Guys, we just wanted to stop for just a second and let you know that we're looking to expand our team, building our group of distributors across the United States. If you are passionate about soil, helping people, farming,
learning,
yeah, absolutely. You can reach out.
Info at singularags.com. Agros.
Singular Agros.
Agros, correct.
Info at singularagros.com.
Yeah.
Anyway, so will there be a link in the description? You can do that.
Yeah.
Techie. Catch you guys
He's
later.
a knowledge guy.
Yeah.
Catch you later.
Am I thinking that right? That's like an easy chelation of nutrients.
It's a really good chelator.
It is, okay.
Like it's a claw. That's where chelation comes from, and it's there.
Got it.
The problem is what some people would talk about is with that EDTA. Number one, when it releases that nutrient, does it tie up something else? And or that EDTA going through the plant, does it stop the use of certain elements.
Got
Is
it.
some of the thoughts there.
Sure.
Like I said, I just don't think there's enough research to really have a clear answer. And then also a lot of micronutrients are EDTA chelated, and the reason I feel like number one is because it's proven that it chelates, but number two, it's usually very easy to mix with.
User friendly.
It's very user friendly, and I would say if you're gonna start dabbling into micros, I would start with an infurrow.
Sure.
At the end of the day, when you're starting biologicals, micronutrients, all these little, I don't even want to call them regions, these science-based efficiency gainers per se,
Sure.
you'll get your biggest bang for your buck doing it around the seed. Because you're going to be able to influence it a lot earlier there than you can anywhere else.
Have you seen, seed company I work with, they have a seed treatment that's a micro treatment that's applied to the seed. And in all their testing, I think it's a 4 to 7 bushel increase on, I want to say 80% of their testing over the last 3 or 4 years. According to the field testing, it's positive.
Yep.
Now, I assume that's put on as a liquid, as most treatments are. It's run through the system and then dried and goes in the pro boxes or the bags. Do you think that's too close? I mean, we see a result. No?
No, so micronutrients is what I see micronutrients as keys,
Okay.
little car keys or house keys, whatever you want.
Sure.
And the key that they have is the open door to macros, your macronutrients.
Okay.
So when it comes to phosphorus to zinc, zinc has the keys to open the phosphorus house for the plant.
Interesting.
Manganese has the keys to help with potassium.
Okay.
It also helps nitrogen.
Okay.
I mean, there's different parts of the thing.
Sure.
And I don't want to generalize saying zinc's only for this. That's not how it works.
Is it Moeller's chart?
No, yeah, we can talk. That's another podcast. but it goes to the point. There are relationships, right?
Yes.
But to just very layman's terms of like why, number one, the fastest way to get that influence is going to be as close to the seed.
Okay.
When it comes to even like biologicals, like biological seed treatments, I actually think it's probably the most economical way to trial stuff.
Okay.
Stuff in season, you're just asking a product to do a lot. Because there's a lot of Mother Nature's factors that have already occurred.
Absolutely.
You know, when you have that seed and it takes its first drink, and it has that association with biology with that first drink.
Yeah.
And if it has micronutrients, it takes its first drink, says, I got these micronutrients. I have these keys to help unlock these things. You're just starting the foundation.
Yeah.
So
that's solid. That's heavy. Man.
Come back, Pretzer. Come back.
Back in. Reverse. Okay, what happens if you have 150 parts per million Phos?
Seen that.
I have too. I've got a test that's got that on it. Dude, what do you do?
Balance.
Okay, just have a crap load of zinc.
I mean, have your zinc in check, have your copper in check. Then I think to myself, my anions are going to have heavy competitions.
Okay.
So phosphorus is negative in the soil. What other nutrients I could have trouble getting into the plant because there's so many negatives?
Right.
Sulfur, boron, nitrate. Those elements will be fighting for a room at the table at the roots. Fighting hard.
So what happens if you have an extreme, like crazy high magnesium and calcium in soils, like parts per million? What if your parts per million, and this may not be crazy high, but say it's 500 parts per million mag and 4,000 parts per million calcium?
Well, then you go, and of course, we got to stop and say, it matters what your CEC is, right? Because if your CEC is higher, you have more tables.
20.
Or you have more chairs, right?
20, yeah.
Well, then you get to like, okay, so let's just say your base. I like talking in base sats when you talk about this, just because it's easier to do it like per 100.
Sure.
Instead. But you look at calcium, you know, ideally you want that around, 65 to 70 chairs out of 100 to be filled by that, right?
Sure.
Then you do mag, you want that to be 12.
Okay.
Potassium 2 to 5. Hydrogen the rest. So then you're looking there.
It's 25 CEC.
Okay. So I'm still going to use 100 chairs.
Yeah.
For simplicity.
Sure.
But so if calcium
base saturation mag's 15.
Okay.
Base saturation calcium is 80.
Okay. So there, your potassium is what, 3?
2.
Okay. Sorry, blew up. So what's going to happen there? So right there, now you're getting a relationship with mag again.
Yeah.
So your positive ions are going to have a hard time getting in.
Yeah.
So you talk about positive ions. You got your micros.
Mm-hmm.
You got K. You got ammonium forms of nitrogen. The plant just has to work harder to get them, or it has to take up a lot of one element to get the other element. So it's called the law of the maximum.
Okay.
Too much of a good thing's a bad thing.
Yeah.
So I would say the cations, for the most part, the plant has that kind of balance. But I actually look at my cations to my anions and making sure those are, and this is more on the tissue side, but how is that relationship?
Gotcha.
Do I have enough of pluses and enough minuses within there?
What were we talking about?
Well, we were originally talking about
know.
like 150 parts Phos, right?
That's right. Crazy high Phos.
Crazy high Phos. How would you manage that? Well, usually if you have crazy high Phos, you probably have crazy high potassium. You probably have crazy high a lot of stuff. Keep the earth alive. Keep adding carbon to buffer.
Do you just stop putting manure on?
Yes.
Okay. Just this constant manure.
Yeah. No.
Because I think a lot of farmers think that just there's a lot of manure is good, a ton of manure's got to be better.
Well, it goes back to even this series that we've kind of done today, carbon to nitrogen ratio.
Yeah.
If you keep applying manure and it's a 5-to-1 ratio, you're going to burn out that soil.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of nutrition, but there's no way for the biology to get that nutrition to plants.
Beans behind manure don't do good the first year? Here.
Possibly.
We see that a lot here. You put a lot of manure on, you plant beans, and dude, they they suffer.
Well, and it could be a thing too. You talk about the law of the maximum. Is there too much K that it can't get nitrate? Well, no, that wouldn't make sense. So scratch that. Strike that from the minutes. Yeah. So in that situation, possibly, definitely if it's raw.
Yeah.
Like it's fresh stuff.
Scrape straight out of the pins and thrown out there.
100%. Now, if you had a corn on corn field, or a corn on wheat,
That's the baby to go to.
Well, that would be the one that I would say you could probably get away with it.
Sure.
But with the same token,
because we put corn and wheat on it, the crops do much better.
Yep.
And then you follow it with beans later, and they do okay.
Yep.
So that's just a carbon nitrogen thing.
I would say that would be 100%. Okay. Definitely when you're talking about tons.
Yeah, like 50 tons.
That's another podcast. I'm a huge proponent of composted manure. Within doses.
I would like to buy some. So you got some? Call me.
All right. Next question.
Yeah. Actually, hang on. We got this one from, where'd it go? There. Client. Okay. Farmer, Upland Hillsite, poor yielding, poor infiltration. What steps to remedy to make it yield along with the rest of the field? That's similar to that I think that test that we did from President Woodrow.
Well, there's part of me that says this goes
parent
by
material.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of what ifs on this situation, right?
Sure.
So I go back 3,000 foot view principles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe it's not yielding, but we need to get carbon into that system.
Sure.
Okay. Now, if it's a dryland area, I understand Mother Nature is the king, right? But if we have roots putting off more exudation, hopefully that's going to help infiltration rates. You're going to be able to get more water there.
Yeah.
I think adding humic would help in this situation to help get it going in the right direction. I actually would be proponent of compost of some sort.
Okay.
There's just a lot of info that's so up in the air in that situation. Because when I think of side hills, that means water doesn't get caught. I mean, it's going to drain off of it. It's probably subsoil, maybe, possibly. You know, like it's eroded away.
Probably.
So do we need to get life back into that? Well, I'm a firm believer the actual fastest way to make soil healthy again is actually through plants.
Sure.
A healthy plant makes healthy soil.
Yeah.
Because that's how everything talks.
Yeah. Plants are supposed to grow on dirt.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
In lower grain markets, what nutrients are the best bang for the buck when being very budget minded?
Exhale. All right. So in that situation, so with lower grain markets, and I even say this like when I make a recommendation for my farmers, is I say, if it's outside of your budget, take everything off by percentages.
Okay.
So let's just say my fertilizer plan was $100 an acre. Okay. I would say take 10% off of everything to get it to 90.
Sure.
Or if you need it at 75, then, I mean, we're cutting quite a bit. I mean, 25% of the budget.
What would be the first thing to not short? Corn. Let's say it's corn crop. Obviously, crop makes a difference on nutrients.
Yeah. I would say potassium, there's a lot hidden in our soil. If we can get biology working for us,
Sure.
it'd be a great one to say, or even instead of trying to build, do a maintenance level.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, how healthy is your soil, right? Because
if it's decent, if it's fairly decent functioning soil,
you could get away with Phos.
You can feed that dirt a lot.
Yeah.
With biological food components, sugars, folates,
Yes.
etc. Some kelps, etc. Things of that nature
Yes.
to stimulate biology to pull more.
Yeah.
To do more of the lifting work that are cheaper if purchased properly and good quality, that can do an awful lot of the heavy lifting that can save you dollars on fertility in the short term. And some people have found in the long term.
Yeah.
Some people have found ways to do it in the long term.
Well, and I get to the point of so what really started opening my eyes is I had 2 growers farmed. I could take a baseball and chuck it to each other's fields. That close. Exact same recommendation.
A mile.
Yeah. Well,
2
yeah.
miles.
With this arm, yeah. But one thing that blew my mind, it was very similar recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
And one field yielded 30 bushel more than the other.
Okay.
You took a traditional soil test, everything was the same. And I just couldn't think of it. And then finally I did a Haney, one field that was doing a lot better. Every pound of phosphorus I put on was getting released. Everything was cycling.
Gotcha.
The other field, it wasn't cycling. I shorted Phos.
Gotcha.
So it just gets to the proponent, what's cycling in your soil. Now, if there's one element that would take a deep dive into, it would probably be potassium.
Okay.
But still, if you don't have much reserve in the tank and you cut out potassium, I mean, that's why it's so hard. What's the one element?
Yeah.
Give me a soil test and give me a Haney.
Region and all kinds of
I
stuff.
mean, we need to have, but if you focus on biology and getting stuff released, maybe you take, let's just say it's $100 again. You take 10% of that budget and put that towards biological products of enhancing it. I'm not saying that you have to go out there and spend $30 an acre on a biological. I'm saying the biology you have there, how do you treat them right?
Yeah.
To get them to cycle more.
Sure. Well, I mean, and we've talked about before, it's more economical, since we're talking economical, to feed your current system than to add more system.
Yeah.
If we're not talking record, trying to shoot for a world record here, we're talking budget minded, be profitable through this year.
Yeah.
While times are lean.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I go with stimulation to the point of, and I've said this, when it comes to like humic or fulvic, stuff like that, a half rate's better than a double rate because you would still get the stimulation,
Right.
right?
Sure.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, the reason why they have it on the label is because that was the economic return,
Yeah.
right? But if you're saying, gosh, I got to push pennies harder, just know that.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying you're going to get the exact same results,
Sure.
but it's a better play for the pocketbook.
Yeah, for sure. I've got one.
Yes.
What determines so here's ear corn. So what'll happen, and I see this a lot here. We'll have 18 round or 20 round right here. Mm-hmm. And then you get to right here and you drop to 16. Or if you're 16, you drop to 14. It's like you lose 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. Why do we start here at 18 and drop to 16?
When did you post spray?
Before? You can tell me that's why?
Could be partially why.
Really?
Well, you got to think of, so your 2,4-Ds, your group 4s for the most part, hormone messes up with the hormone system.
Okay.
So just because the corn crop can live through it doesn't mean there's not effect on it.
Okay.
Now at V4, most of the time I don't see that result, but let's just say it's at V5, V6. Or maybe, when you said it's time to go, it was V4, but by the time you got to the field, it was V5, V6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just honest truth of it, right?
That's how farming is.
Yeah. So, that can be a play into that. Because if it said it could do 18 around,
Yeah.
and then it had this spike, this hormone spike, it tried to process it, change the number. Now, if it was twisting, like the kernels are twisting, that means you're short Phos.
Okay.
If you have this kernel and
Really? So if you have a spiraled ear of corn?
yeah, which I mean I keep track of that when I'm walking through the field when I'm checking ears throughout the grower season.
Okay.
Like I'll say, oh, I saw 1%.
Sure.
I saw 5%.
Yeah.
It just tells me because not every plant's gonna be short Phos.
Right.
I mean,
right.
but
Yeah.
potassium always just has like a really shrunken head on the very, very top, very, very tip. That's potassium.
Okay.
So like that one, no.
Okay.
But I'm talking about like this area right here. It's like, it looks like it could have been
Little
here,
tiny
but it is
nothings.
just so small.
Sure.
It's potassium. And then more quote unquote abortion could be nitrogen, but also could be lack of sugar production. And if you tassel out and it's really cloudy after you tassel, I've seen that. It aborts these up here because it didn't have enough sugar to produce what it needed. It had the nutrition.
Didn't have the
sugar.
sunlight to to process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it just didn't have the sugar to support the yield.
Gotcha.
There's a lot to be said about that.
We have much to talk about in the future, Johnny.
That's good. That's good.
It is good.
Yep.
Okay. Man, that's a pile of questions right there. And we're at time again. So this is gonna wrap it up.
All right.
This is gonna wrap it up. The first rapid fire and sit down session in the podcast room with Johnny Maverick Ferentz.
We got her done.
We did. 3,000 pages of paper left.
Yeah,
or later.
Like I said, by next year it'll be just
We just keep it.
just
keep it a pile
keep,
in the
just
middle
keep
of the room.
putting it on top.
That's right. Just kind of build a window
Yeah.
to go through. Anyway, so, okay, cool. Well, thank you for your time and
Enjoyed it.
being a part of the mission. And yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm really excited for next year. Got some goals, learned a lot, and we're just going to keep on trucking. So,
In the words of Ryan Gibbs.
farm
Farm
on. See you guys. Over and out. Guys, thanks for watching the content so far. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got all the full-length podcasts, other video information, tutorials on there. Also on all the major podcast platforms and social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc.
So if you like this, go ahead and check more out on all those platforms.